Welcome to today's edition of the Summit. There is no doubt that today's edition will prick the minds of most of you watching. Why are we saying a lot about the primaries? Because a lot happened under the surface that we don't know. And it's also important to begin to see which aspects of the primaries may have been overlooked. In fact, is this the manner that the general election will be conducted? With me to discuss some of the things that transpired during the primaries and where we seem to be going in 2019 general election, I have with me a consummate journalist and who has occupied different positions in government at some point, Emmanuel Bello. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ola. It's a pleasure.
Hamza Idris is the group political editor of the Daily Trust.
It's nice.
Well, in fact, this is not your first time on the show.
Yeah, of course.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You were all witnesses to much of what transpired, and there are lots of questions than answers. Would you say what you saw was free and fair? Why don't we start with you, Hamza?
Well, very simple. The dominant political parties, because definitely we have to concentrate our attention on the ruling All Progressive Congress and then the leading opposition People's Democratic Party, despite the fact that we have about 91 political parties. They all have their issues, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses. If you take the APC, for instance, what we saw during the primaries was not unexpected because it has history. From 2015, I will not go that back, but from the primaries they held in May, congresses, they held various congresses at the wards, local government and state levels, which caused a lot of disaffection within the ranks and file of the political party. It was what they left without resolving during the congresses that manifested.
It's coming back to Honda.
Exactly. Because many key players were shortchanged, let me use this word. Many key players who have their supporters, who have their grassroots bases, were demystified, a kind of. And then there was nothing they could do. And then during the primaries, they now said, okay, this is the time for us to show who really we are. This is the basic problem that we have in the APC. The governors had their ways during the congresses. When you look at it critically, the governors had their ways during the world congresses, local government congresses, state congresses, to the extent that they pocketed all the delegates in anticipation of using them during the primaries. But many of the other stakeholders who felt that, of course, if you don't have delegates in the democratic system, who are you? Nothing. That was what caused a lot of problems. But at the national level, the national chairman or the national working committee tried to diffuse some of the problems, especially towards the end of the road for them, because at the time they had to now have a kind of a cluster whereby certain states will have direct primaries, other states will have indirect primaries, some states that do not have issues were allowed to have consensus candidates. But that did not solve the problem, because where you have delegate system, the governors still had their ways. Where you have direct primaries, those who were against the governors nearly have their ways, and the governors resisted. And that's why we are having the problems we have in the APC.
Emmanuel, you have seen it all. Let's put it like that, because you were in the thick of things during the 2015 fight in Taraba. So you knew exactly what transpired then. If you compare it to now, you will also see very clearly that where there is a mixture, he talked about direct primary, there's the consensus candidate, and there's the indirect primary. did these parties give the idea that they did not give a clear indication, you know, on a general basis? So that's why you have this potpourri of different things happening in the state and the national, etc., creating the unfairness that most of those candidates are now touting.
Well, yeah, I want to start by saying that one of the things we are grappling with right now, if you want to understand all that happened in the primaries, you have to look at the fallout and the aftermath and the backlash that we're dealing with right now in the polity, the anger, the disappointment, and the consequence of some of the things that happened during the primaries. If you want to understand what transpired then you need to look at the fallout like I'm trying to talk about. So nothing much has changed between 2015 and now. It's still the same old politics of imposition, of trying to control delegates, of also trying to induce delegates with all sorts of things and make them do the biddings of certain individuals. And we need to work on that. And if we're going to work on our primaries and we're going to have very free and fair and transparent primaries, we need to work on the delegate system itself. Who is the delegate? What motivates him? Is he really sensitized enough to know that he's carrying the mandate of a certain people and that his decisions or his indecision is going to affect a whole lot of things? We need to look at that. Because when I look at the whole system, I discovered that many delegates went into these primaries with just one thing in mind. Probably just to, make money for themselves.
To collect some cash.
Collect some cash. And then no other time did you see people really, spending a lot of money on ensuring that they get to the heart of the delegates than this period. And that's problematic for democracy. Going forward, we may need to actually look at that. I don't know how we're going to do it, but maybe we'll have to talk about it some more. Because while on the surface, everything looks like it's free and fair, the devil, like they say, is in the details. But that's just one. The other thing that will surprise you is that the Change Party, APC, probably also repeated some of the mistakes, or even did worse than the PDP, because there are people in APC that will tell you that even in PDP, you didn't have that level of impunity, that level of imposition, and almost to some extent political rascality that was recorded by the party that was supposed not to. But they took not just a page out of the book, out of the PDP book, they took an entire chapter, or in fact, the entire book itself.
Isn't traditionally that the party in power will normally have all these series of problems? Because if you're looking at it, the rancor that you're currently feeling now, I mean, that you're getting, happens to be those people who felt that they have been delegitimized by the process itself. In the previous show, we talked about how the First Lady literally admonished the party for not giving opportunities to those who bought the forms for exorbitant fees. Yeah. And now, the one thing I will really want you to speak to, you talked about the fallout, the possibility that a lot of people will now do things to the detriment of the party because they felt left out of the process. Am I right?
Yeah,
yes.
Maybe if I should come in.
Yes.
You see, the First Lady said, she said her mind.
Yes.
Based on the peculiarity of her interest. Why am I saying this? The decision taken by the NWC of the ruling party, it wasn't a general decision. If you want to set rules, set it across the board so that you bear the consequences. You know squarely that this is where the problem is.
There's a common communication trail, yes.
But each state, in its wisdom, the APC said, okay, let's take decisions based on the peculiarity of the problems we have in various states. That is why they have more than what they can actually contain now.
Right.
For instance, in Adamawa, they said they should go for direct primaries. Why is it so? During the primaries, it was believed that the governor cornered all the delegates. Other aspirants who wanted to go for Senate, House of Reps, You know, even those who wanted to contest against him do not have control of the delegates. So how do we solve the problem in Adamawa? Let's go for direct primaries. And this is where they are. Go to Zamfara State. The same problem. As we talk now, as we speak, the APC could not produce a single candidate in Zamfara State. A ruling party. This is the first in the history.
Isn't that, they say when two elephants are fighting, is the ground that suffers. But
Yes.
that is the
Yes,
what
but
happened
assuming they
between
have ground
Yari and...
rules, assuming they have ground rules that, okay, we are going for direct primaries in all the 36 or 29 states
Yeah.
of the federation, because we are not going to have elections in about 7 states. Okay, in the remaining states, we are going to have direct primaries, no matter its problems, no matter the issues that may arise. It will be able to resolve the problem.
So you're talking of some level of uniformity.
Exactly, which
Okay.
is very, very important in every system.
So
you
the
can
clear
take.
line of communication is, I mean, is definitely not even clear.
Yeah.
That means they were making it up as they saw fit, as they
So fit, and so there was a lot of confusion. But there's something you raised, Shola, and that's, I think, very profound, which is, so what next after the primaries? Because how is this going to affect the general elections? And exactly, that's the issue that we need to be looking at now. In some states, you know that the battle line has been drawn between those who felt aggrieved
Yes.
and those, of course. So there are, just this afternoon, I was telling someone that some people probably don't know the kind of ticket they are holding, because it's one thing to just get the ticket.
Yeah, right.
You got the ticket, right? So that's the easier part of it. The toughest part now is how to be able to work with those that you've defeated to get the ticket, and so to run for the general election.
advance, yes.
So we're going to see a whole lot of that. Again, if you look at even some reporting and all that, you find out that a whole lot of committees have been set up to see how, because between now and the election period, it will tax on the intelligence or even the wisdom of the part of B to be able to solve some of this problem, to be able to settle all these crises within their ranks before they're able to go to the general. Or else we're going to see a general election that is so different from any kind of general election we've ever seen. We're going to see parties, people are going to probably rally around people. And if you have an INEC that tries to, because that's another issue, you have an INEC that is prepared to be firm, to be fair, to be transparent, to do it professionally, you'll be shocked the kind of people that will be winning elections. So what we can say is that the primaries just liberalized the ticketing section of parties, in the sense that it's no longer about the platform, maybe. It's now going to be about the people running and how they're able to coordinate, how they're able to rally people behind them. Because you have a situation where aggrieved people, unless if they're willing to work with you, could actually, upturn the apple cart and then have everything down the drain.
One of the things that we also noticed was the apparent lack of women participation in this process. Globally, there is all kinds of clamor for women to come into the political domain, the political process. In this situation, if I look at the lists in which I was given about who and who became presidential candidates and all that, this looks like an almost all-male affair.
It's a boys' club.
It's a boys' club. You see?
You have Ezekwesili.
Ezekwesili, and then, so what do we do? I mean, now, there's a lot of opportunities, we'll say, possibly, for them to play probably other roles, but what would we need to do to have our women folk get more into the political domain? Because if you depend on the structures, the way the parties are set up, or first, let's ask why are they not as participatory? Do you want to start?
Well, yes, it's a long issue, and women have always talk about the glass ceiling, which is which the gender has placed on them. But again, all over the world, you have women, breaking through those glass ceilings and actually expressing themselves in very, very revolutionary and radical ways. You have a situation where women are becoming presidents all over the world.
That's correct.
Shattering all of that myth concerning limitations and all of that. Why can't that happen here? And it's a simple thing. First, I think to some extent, and more women will say this before a man says it, that sometimes their worst enemy are their own, their own gender.
Fellas.
Yes, so because you don't see women rallying support around a woman who is interested in running for office. And I want to say something. There isn't really nothing limiting women. One of the things we can do to help them or to open up the space is to actually look at the monetization of maybe forms, the fees, and all of that. We have to find a way of redefining that, because in this part of the world, unfortunately, politics has been over monetized. And there are women that will tell you that they do not have access to the kind of funding that goes into that. But beyond all of that, is also the issue of even the space itself, the political space, and the kind of energy, the kind of activism.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about that particular issue. Why women cannot participate because of the extensive dollarization of the electioneering. When we get back. Nigerians are progressively demanding accountability in the current democracy. We also want to be truly involved in the selection of our leaders at the local, state, and national levels. Many are called, but few are chosen. And this is not about what the political parties choose with fear or favor. This is about what we, the people, want for the good of Nigeria. It is time to meet and know the candidates, to make informed choices of those that want to govern us. Why do they want to govern us? Is it for their own interests, or is it really for our collective interests? What are their characters? What do they have to offer us? These are the questions as we engage the contenders on the Summit Debate Series on AIT, the production of Nicense Media in collaboration with AIT. You're welcome back. We're still discussing some of the details that you, the public, may not be aware of during the primaries. And with me are two erudite journalists. One of the things that we were talking about is that the women may not have the kind of financial wherewithal to be able to participate in this process.
Yeah.
Why that?
Well, so many issues. We have religious, we have cultural, and then we also have the understanding of the democratic dynamics, especially in Nigeria, which is developing. Our democracy is actually developing. So sometimes we have to break the rules in order to accommodate the weak. I don't want to call them the weak, but it is obvious that for some obvious reasons, as you mentioned, issue of money, issue of restraint to go and campaign and other things. I feel if we want to actually give them the voice to contribute to the democratic development, is to have, there is the issue of affirmation. Nobody is respecting that. But if we can agree, just the way we agree in rotating the political offices according to the six
zoning system.
Yeah.
Right.
If you now say that in every state there must be one or two members of the state House of Assembly, because I can tell
you're saying they need to legislate it.
Exactly.
In a way.
If we legislate it,
Right.
so be it. If we are going to make maybe a political pronouncement that should be binding on the political actors, so be it. That in every state, please allow 2 slots for women. Let them feel it. That house should not be inaugurated if 2 women do not have. This is how I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Because if you are talking about,
But somebody will say that is not democracy.
well,
Exactly.
the zoning system is a democracy.
Well, the zoning system is some form of lack of kind of gentleman agreement,
We
and yet
should
there are
also agree
places
for
where
the
people
women to have
there are
this
places where
opportunity.
people have actually gone beyond that to actually contravene whatever agreement was there to say, look, we're not respecting any zoning, we're talking competence, it's election, it's about numbers, it's about mobilization, it's about who you can get. Because essentially, like you say, that's what democracy is all about. People are not going to get power or get position just because of their gender or even because of their age. Talking about the not too young to run group who think that age is just about it. Age is just number. Beyond, if all you have is age, what you have is actually just number. Age doesn't...
Wisdom.
Yes, it doesn't confer anything. It's just number. So it's about the contest itself, and I think we should be worried about what we can get women to do to run into the contest, because they have to run on an, on a plane, on a plane ground with every other person. Right. It's a contest that they have to go in.
Many
with,
of the political parties give them free nomination, free interest forms.
Yeah, but you get the form and then you have to go to the main contest.
Correct.
That
so
is what we are
beyond
saying. So
getting a free form. I think I agree with him.
But something else, which I think when we had a short break, that we were talking about, many of these women, because of the environment, because of the atmosphere, the violent atmosphere that they perceive, don't you think that is also one of the reasons why some of the women don't seem to be participating?
It's a major thing, because it's male dominated, the political terrain. But then again, like I say, it's not a case of always, blaming the other gender and saying that, well, they don't ever allow us, because that's actually the thing. The women need to really organize themselves. They really need to come together. They really need to agree that they are in this contest and they are in it for a lady in my state, for instance, ran the primaries at the senatorial level and then didn't even get a vote. It's funny. I mean, is it that she didn't give herself the vote, or she didn't really at least get the women delegates vote for yourself? So she didn't even
vote for herself. Yes, that's a good one.
And that's if you remember in the history of Nigeria, there was a presidential aspirant who got just a vote. It's there in our history, just a vote for, and it was probably her own vote. I don't want to mention himself, but it's a common thing in the country now. So what is all that about? What is that telling us? That tells us that women themselves are not really giving the push. If women will come together, because there's something about consensus, about numbers.
But even at that, if we don't tackle the issue of violence, because I mean, you have stories already of how many people got killed and we're only just talking about primaries.
Yes.
We have not gotten to the main event. The main event is sometime in February next year.
No, let me say something here.
Right.
You see, before 2019, we are going to witness a lot of issues between now and February, because INEC, when you look at the timetable and the guideline, political parties have room for substitution of candidates. So the fact that you have the APC ticket to vie for the Senate
doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean that you are going to be the candidate next year. Yes, this is very fundamental.
Yes.
INEC has given up to 17th of November for substitution and withdrawals. And then the Electoral Act gave political parties the final say. So even if you have done all the struggles, being a man, forget about the women now. As a man, you have done everything, you have the ticket. At the end of the day, you may not see your name. This is another problem. Very, very fundamental.
But there are precedents already that maybe we'll need to look at. If you look at the gubernatorial race between Omehia and Amechi, the substitution did not favor Omehia at the end of the day, because the Supreme Court ruled against that. So what I'm saying is that it's a jeopardy. I mean, it's a double jeopardy.
The situation is dicey. What we are going to see now, for instance, let me still cite an example with Zamfara. It is APC, the ruling party. Assuming they do not navigate their way now to get out of this trouble, now that INEC has disqualified them, what will they do? Very simple. They will go to some of these political parties. But the assumption is that all the 91 political parties already have their candidates with INEC. But, sorry, not with INEC, with political parties. Now, some of these gladiators, they will go to...
And ask people to just drop.
Yes, maybe let me pay you back, or they will make promises to them that, okay, if you give me your ticket, this is what will happen. Then they will give the ticket, and they will, typical of politicians.
No,
Not
that
all
even
of them-
happened recently when people went for presidential elections, primaries,
Right.
and lost and quickly went back to people that were holding, stuff for them, and then they just took it back.
And then
Oh
some
yeah,
will-
it
some will
just happened a few
forcefully-
days.
some will
I think
forcefully take the
Tambowal just
Yes,
is
just took his thing.
in Sokoto.
Okay.
Yes, so it's already happening.
So you see that
And you know,
we,
this
we,
is uniquely
we have a
Nigerian.
lot of
It's not
ground.
done anywhere.
We have a lot of ground to cover.
So
between now
basically,
and 2019.
one of the things that you are saying now is that we need to look at how some of these electoral laws can be changed for the sanity of our democracy.
Exactly.
Yes.
We need to work on some of these laws because if the rules require that people can easily substitute, what stops anybody from just within the last minute say, like you said, here is however how many dollars, but since Naira doesn't mean anything these days,
And that is why, especially the PDP, did what it did. It took its presidential primaries to the last hour. And then those who could not get it, because it's not only about Tambuwal. Up till now, they are denying it in Sokoto. Yesterday, the party chairman said, no, Daiya is still our gubernatorial
Look at
candidate.
that. That's another problem.
But wait and see. You understand?
He will still get substituted. But you see, beyond even the electoral laws is the issue of democracy itself. All these things, eat into our democracy. It doesn't strengthen it. It's their easy way out that we use in coping with, some things that we don't know how to deal with. The issues of substitution, the issue of whether it's going to be direct or indirect. We need to take the hard road of democracy, which is go contest an election. If you lose, you lose.
Wait
There's
for another time.
Wait for another time. You don't get to keep something. Some people bought 2 forms.
Many
in the
of
course
them,
of all
we
of
did
that.
a report in my newspaper. Many of the presidential aspirants, you will see them in the final list, which will be released around December by INEC. You see their names as senatorial candidates, despite the fact
So
that
they bought forms and then ran for the presidency.
and some
It makes
did not
no
even
sense
buy
of
the
it.
forms with their names. They bought the forms by proxies. They bought the
Some
forms
people call it dual SIM, like in your phone. So if this was not working for you, it makes no sense of democracy. That's just it. Apart from the dollarization, like you say, the monetization, the issue of control of delegates and all of that has not really helped democracy. But issues of substitution are even worse. But the issue that we actually before we veered, which is allowing women participation in politics, that also can be solved through taking the hard road of democracy, which is allowing popular participation, taking away the issue of imposition and all the other impunities. If a woman was going to be able to rally support around her, you allow her to do that. I don't know what we are scared of again
see,
and
when
again
you
when we
talk-
don't allow these things to happen.
When you talk of the hard road of democracy, maybe we then look at the country that we got our mandate as such.
Our template.
I mean, our template from. So thank you. The United States. And if you look at the people who were the people who constructed our Constitution, were they looking for ways of diluting what they got? For us to have come up with all these different, different.
And we call them child of necessities. These are all terms we use in watering down our democracy and making it so I don't know, easy for some people, but certainly making a mockery of it. Someone studying this thing from afar will know that it's a mockery of the entire thing. If we are going to take, like we coin it here, the hard road of democracy, then we have to do away with all of that. You have to go run for an office. When you lose that office, you have no chance again of running for any other thing. You wait for your turn. That's just the only way.
A lot of things that introduced in Nigeria was we were the people who introduced military democracy, right? So does that really surprise you? But then let's look at the role of INEC.
Yeah.
Because with all of these that we're talking about, the ombudsman, the referee is INEC. At what point now does INEC realize that they're either not up to or they think they are ready for the main game?
I think the INEC that conducted the 2015 elections under Professor Tairu Jega did its best. It provided a strong template, a good perspective as to the rules of the game. And then, in fairness to this one, when you look at the timetable, the INEC for the first time in the history of democracy in Nigeria, they released timetable of activities.
It was a year
Almost a
before.
year.
Yeah.
But typical of Nigerians, typical of our kind of democracy, we all believe in rushing, we all believe in doing last minute scheming for obvious reasons, selfish gains. And that is why we have all the problems we are battling to contain. I think INEC on its part, it has done quite good in setting the ground rules, but the political parties kept meandering their way to suit their own interests, and that is why we are having issues. It banged the big hammer today on Zamfara. I keep hammering on Zamfara because it's a lesson for democracy.
It did
You
well
see.
with Zamfara.
Okay.
INEC did well with Zamfara, but I'm not going to be as charitable as Hamza.
Okay.
Yes, my predecessor in Daily Trust. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be as you know as
generous.
charitable, as generous as
Right.
he is to INEC. Sorry, my successor at Daily Trust. INEC has everything it needs to actually conduct credible polls in this country. All the funding, everything, all the laws are in place. Nothing's wrong with the laws, nothing's wrong with the system. They have all the manpower and all of that. Where they complain, they get all the funding they have. Where is the problem? Hamza tried to say that, well, look, it's the political party, and that's the position of INEC all the time, and say, look, it's not us. We only record what you come with, and we have no control over it. But the devil again is in the details, and I think there's a collusion between INEC as a body and political parties. That's not convinced me enough. This particular INEC, under this particular management, has not also convinced me enough that it is ready for credible polls. We've seen example again and again in Ekiti, in Osun. We've seen examples that, you know, areas where INEC, it's not just about men and material or being on the ground on election day. It's about insisting that the right thing must be done. And it's not just about, okay, saying, you know, shifting the blame and saying that, well, you know, we have no control over what the parties are doing. For sure, you have control, some form of control.
Emmanuel,
you have control at the area of, in the area of, you know, taking in the collecting the results, announcing them, and deciding clearly on who the winner is.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. We're still talking about what happened during the primaries, the pre-primary, primary, and then post-primary. We're going to be dealing more on what will be happening between now and the general election in 2019. We'll be right back. Nigerians are progressively demanding accountability in the current democracy. We also want to be truly involved in the selection of our leaders at the local, state, and national levels. Many are called, but few are chosen. And this is not about what the political parties choose with fear or favor. This is about what we, the people, want for the good of Nigeria. It is time to meet and know the candidates to make informed choices of those that want to govern us. Why do they want to govern us? Is it for their own interests, or is it really for our collective interests? What are their characters? What do they have to offer us? These are the questions as we engage the contenders on the Summit Debate Series on AIT, the production of Nicense Media in collaboration with AIT. You are welcome back. We're still discussing the details of the primaries of 2018. We're looking at the possibility of a lot of things happening between now and the general election. Tell me, what are some of your greatest fears?
Yes, my greatest fear is that many of the aspirants will go to court. A lot of issues will now move to the courts.
And you think there is not enough, there's really not enough, what do you call it?
Time?
Not a time. Let's say the apparatus in place for these people
Yeah.
To get justice?
to get justice.
Of course, the courts are doing pretty well this time around. Honestly, I'm in tune with most of the things that are happening because our democracy, whether we like it or not, is maturing. We will keep having all these altercations. But what I want to say now is there will be substitutions. Many governors would like to substitute some of the flag bearers in order to assuage certain interests, especially governors who might likely be going for second term, or governors who are rounding up their second term and want to put successors. So they have to assuage many people. And then in the process, those whose tickets were taken from them, many of them will go to courts. And when they go to courts, that's where you are going to see the concentration of a lot of activities. The way the courts dispense the issues, depends on the credibility or otherwise of the case, because each case has its own peculiarity. But the Electoral Act, the INEC guidelines, they have made provisions that political parties have the leeway to substitute candidates.
Good to know that. But I think the biggest concern that one has, when you talked in terms of all the substitutions, in our previous program, we tried to address the issue of these governors turning the Senate into a retirement home.
Yeah.
And how many of them, even while there, introduced no bills, are not, are really not helping the causes of, the cause of democracy.
Yeah.
So it seems to be happening again, or it will continue to happen unless certain things are put in place where there is a free and fair access to the legislature, not just one governor finishing an 8-year term and hoping that he automatically he gets a ticket to go to the Senate. Because if we have to examine the record of very many of the governors who are in the Senate, they've just, I don't want to use the wrong word, but
it's a resting suit.
So,
Shola, you talk about your fears between now and the election. And I agree with you. We need to talk about that. We need to reflect on that and talk more about it, because the media has that role to play, which is the roles of ensuring that we keep talking about certain issues. In that way, let's say the agenda, if you think we are that powerful now, or we help in stopping some things from happening. And I think our concern right now should be, first, as we go into the campaigns, what kind of campaigns are we going to have in the first place? Are they going to be violence-free? Are they going to be issue-based campaign? Are the people going to be sensitized enough by us? Because the media plays a very major role. In all my discourses, public discourse, I keep saying that, look, we can't just continue, the media will not continue just analyzing things. In time, we have to take positions in certain matters and actually establish parameters and establish the truth. I'm about to say this, say, it's no longer about being balanced. It's no longer about just trying to be fair and balanced. It's about actually sticking with the truth and saying, no, this is the right thing to do. The media will have to play a major role. We have to look back into our recesses, our editorial suits, especially the political desk that Hamza is holding down in one of the newspapers, and ask themselves very clear-cut questions, because we need to inform people on what to do. So my fears are the campaigns. How are they going to be? Are they going to be issue-based? Are they going to be filled with emotions and all that? Are we going to really inform people, or are we going to allow? Then let's not just assume that everyone knows all the issue. Right. There are people who are just hearing Atiku. They don't, for instance, know who this person is, or even Buhari. Or they don't know who they are, what they stand for. Have we, helped the people enough? Have we helped them to see the difference between what the social media is feeding them and the truth that they need to sift between? I'm not saying that they can't get credible things on social media, but some of us here, especially those of us here, need to actually do a whole lot of work in doing that. So my fears are that, well, people might not have the, enough information to be able to take credible and, good decisions on the way forward. That's one. Two, we need to still talk about the umpire himself. I still don't think, I hope they can still get to the point, and I like what they did in Zamfara, but we still need to tax on INEC to be more independent, as its name says, to be more national, as its name says, and then, of course, to be very, very patriotic in the course of, because we are at crossroads, actually, in this country, and we need the umpire to be everything it says. It's independent, it has to be just, it has to be courageous, it has to be firm, it has to be able to apply the brakes where necessary and all of that. So that is, for me, the areas that we need to look at. We need to.
So for someone like you who is on the political desk, to what extent now do you galvanize your your team to do thorough research into
the process and
the
the persons.
background of these various candidates? Because we keep hearing names.
Yeah,
But
without
at the-
deconstructing.
correct.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think what the common man really wants to know,
Yeah.
there are major issues. This country, if it's going to remain a country, has to tackle corruption.
Yeah.
What stops your, would you, in fact, publish an article that will probably not be favorable to any candidate, even though they are factually based?
We have been doing that, and that is why they keep coming to us. I don't want to brag, but I believe that the Daily Trust is anybody maybe in the South who wants a second medium to know about what's happening in Nigeria will go for the Daily Trust. And then the North is the constituency of the Daily Trust, despite the fact that it is the national newspaper. We deconstruct politicians. We do it. Sometimes when we write our reports, when we question their personality, when we question the custody they had, when we ask people, when we talk to the electorate to speak about their leaders, we have articles, we have analysis. In fact, almost every week, we run stories, we run interviews, we run analysis, deconstructing political leaders. You see many of them calling us, some calling our executives, saying that maybe we were not fair to them because we only said the other side.
You have to be fair.
Which is very normal.
Absolutely.
We are fair.
Yeah.
So if you do the right thing, we put it. If we do the wrong thing, we put it. And then we allow the electorate to judge. You spoke about the National Assembly. We have started deconstructing many members of the National Assembly. Sadly, the Nigeria's legislature is where you have the highest attrition rate in the political cycle. Because every year, and it's going to repeat itself, hardly you see 25% of the senators, members of the House of Representatives
Returning.
Yeah, and it's a minus to democracy.
It is a minus.
Yeah.
It is a minus.
Yeah, but
because when you really have experienced legislators, to just ask them to leave because of some gentlemanly agreement that they have with someone
Who brought them in?
Not just who brought them in, to say, it's my turn. I can give you, let me not mention any name. There was a case where one of the most intelligent Nigerians that I know, he did very well in the National Assembly. He had to step down just to give somebody a chance, because that person says, look, you've done 2 terms, it's my turn to come in. And as soon as that person came in, we looked at all what this person did between the time he came in when he left. We could not see any meaningful legislation.
But Shola, that's part of the problem. This legislator that was asked to withdraw, why did they obey it? I say if we're going to take the tough and not the easy way out, the lean road to nationhood, then politicians will have to be ready to do some things. If you ask people to drop, they'll go back to the people, and get votes from the people. Part of the problem is that everyone wants to be spoon-fed. Everyone wants to be given, some of these offices, and they go to godfathers and become beholden to those people. That is the problem. You just want the easy way out. Somebody is going to sponsor you. Someone is going to take you there, and you don't go to the people. It whittles the power of the people to make decisions, to decide for democracy. If we're going to have democracy, it's people. People are going to have to vote for candidates. When you have an overriding godfather who decides who is going to be governor, who decides who is going to be this, it's part of the problem. We need to tackle all of that too.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm not going to let you escape without discussing this godfatherism, because I think somehow it's killing our democracy.
Please.
The godson has now come of age, and the godfather says, look, step aside because A, B, C, D you didn't do. The A, B, C, D was that in the best interest of the governed or the godfather. See, so you have a godfather, a godson scenario now in most of Nigerian politics, where it is, in many of the cases, at least 2 or 3 cases that we know now, which are not in the best interest of the country.
Yeah.
You know, you see? So what is your take on this godfatherism?
Really bad. It's really bad, and it is killing the system. But as Mr. Emmanuel said, politicians must have to summon courage. The platforms are there. And then none of the political parties have any ideology. Yes, they are just there by names. You will see what will happen. As I said earlier, many of the disgruntled in court, many of the disenchanted, you will see them picking some of these banana political parties, and they will make an impact, because a legislator that did well.
No, they're not going to. They're not going to be happy you calling them banana political parties. They will tell you they use the same method to get in there.
What I'm saying is that you only hear of APC, PDP, isn't it? And in some places, SDP or ADC or ABGA. They are going to make an impact this time around. I foresee something like that.
Are you saying the smaller parties?
The smaller parties
will make
they
an
will
impact.
make semblance of presence in the political field, because the godfathers, they have succeeded in having their way, but the politicians who are actually aggrieved and they believe that they have people, they are going to take the tickets of some of these political parties, and they may strike a difference.
I agree with Hamza, and I think that is going to be the beginning of closures in the political field, where people can take their destiny in their hands and say that it's just like the party primaries that went to in Port Harcourt.
Right.
For the first time, maybe to some extent, I mean, it's not the entire thing, but for the first time, you have a situation where we have a candidate that seems to be coming out of a process that was first not dictated to by anybody, apparently. Not like, okay, fine, this candidate belongs to this person. It's not the perfect thing yet. It's not, we're not there yet. But it came close to that. And it was, for the first time, probably you're going to have a president who is, if he wins, or a candidate, you are having a candidate in a party. In fact, some of them confessed on the ground there that this is the first time probably that we're having what looks like a free and fair election. A party is confessing that. So because in the past, that's not what happened. In the past, you're probably either the candidate of this person or that person. It whittles everything, it stifles it. Because at the moment you are the product of a godfather and not the people, your allegiance is with your allegiance and loyalty is always with the godfather. You dare not offend him. And you can offend an entire generation of people and even generation unborn, but because of the godfather. But when you have systems, you're producing people like we had in Port Harcourt recently, came close to saying that, look, no, I'm not the product of anybody per se. Apparently, the product of anybody. I struggle. If you want to call it, I bought it. Whatever it is. But at least I came out from, it's a system. I wasn't imposed on the people. Let me just say, when we do that in this country, when we have elections where the people are in the sitting room, and INEC ensures that, look, it is the people will that prevails, you are going to have a situation where the economy itself is going to get some life again. Everything is going to come back. Imposition is what has killed us so far, because you have a situation where someone always looks up and says, look, no, I can't do this because my godfather said, no, I shouldn't do this. I can't do this. So we need to have radical system or radical situation that will produce people. And I like what Hamza said, and I hope it happens, that yes, okay, fine, the godfathers had their way, people have gotten their ticket, but the real job of it is when we get to the field, and then we are facing the people. And I know in certain places where people say that, okay, it's up to us now.
Yeah.
We are going to take this thing by the horn. It's our destiny, we're taking it. If INEC can give people the assurance, complete 100% assurance that yes, your vote do count. Because the examples we've seen in some places is that people are actually getting tired. After the Ekiti and the Osun election, there were people who were ready to just put their PVs aside. Before then, there was actually a whole lot of sensitization about the PVC. People were excited. People believe power is in their hand for the first time.
It looks now like, I mean, you look out there. If you say AIT, they will say, oh, it's a PDP station. AIT is not a PDP station.
Yes.
It's not an APC station. AIT is after the news, is after getting the facts straight. Maybe one or two incidences that may have led into, but you don't categorize, a station that has, that has interest of the people. at heart, to just completely push them aside and say, oh, because they belong to this party, they cannot give proper credible news.
That's not a huge problem. CNN, as far as the Republicans are concerned, the CNN network is a Democrat party network. That's not even the problem. The problem is not, we shouldn't worry about that, what we are called or what we're labeled. The Nation newspaper, for instance, even the ownership of TVs and everything should show where it's leaning to. That's not, we that do this job, that's not our concern, what you call us. But we must do what Hamza is saying, which is we need to do more reporting, better reporting, more balanced reporting. Like I say, we must switch to election mode reporting,
yes.
where we cover all the issues. We must do that one. And no matter how small the election is, we should go there. Because in all the small elections, or what we could consider small elections, we have the issue. But beyond that, we need to do you know that if you look at most newsrooms, they are concentrating on just PDP, APC, and all of that.
This is crazy.
And when it comes to the presidential aspirant, you have just Buhari on one side and Atiku. Right. But there's Obadiah Melafia, there's Obi Ezekwesili, there's a former governor of Cross River State. They are all people that need to be given a voice because you just can't tell.
Yeah.
Today, a paper said that Nigeria needs a president that understands the economy, and that's coming from Obasanjo, who understands the economy. You've got clear-cut economists right now running for president. We are not telling the world about them. We are concentrating, but elsewhere in the world, on an election year like this, especially now that we're going to go into an election, all newsrooms, all newspapers, all TV stations should have very strong, desk reporting,
political reporters,
and talking to people. Because one thing we must do now is not just to report what's going on, but it's actually we like calling it a certain agenda. But we must also take position. There's nothing wrong with that. We must take positions now and say, establish some parameters, establish some truth, and say this is what this person stands for. We need to help the electorate to make that decision themselves. But we can also go beyond that, beyond editorializing, beyond reporting, to actually take decisions. There's nothing wrong with a media house doing that.
Well, gentlemen,
yeah,
I think our work is cut out for us. On our part, we're introducing the debate series, and we're encouraging from the legislative, national, gubernatorial, from the states and presidential. These will run from now until when the INEC says
good job.
Everybody has to stop the electioneering. So, Hamza, we look forward to you participating as one of the adjudicators in our debate series. And Emmanuel, you cannot be too far away because I'll have to pick on you so that you guys will participate. Nigeria has, we have no other country.
That's right.
Nigeria has to get out of whatever situation it finds itself, and let's practice true democracy. Folks, we've come to the end of another summit. We normally leave you by saying we hope that you've been with us on top of the summit. As we prepare for the elections for 2019, we hope that you also, as a Nigerian, will play your part. You search for the truth. You go after information. Do some reading. Do some listening before you cast your vote. We look forward to a very vibrant and exciting activity between now and the election day. I'm Shola J. Goodbye for now. Emmanuel?
It's a pleasure.
We look forward to the rest of the activities between now and February 2019.